What kind of manager schedules one driver for 3 stores on a Saturday? Owen Ellison gripped the steering wheel of the beat-up van, trying not to let his frustration show. He wasn't here as the CEO today, he was Dale, a new hire doing delivery runs for a popular fast casual restaurant chain he'd bought 8 years ago. The company had 8 locations spread across the metro area, and lately, complaints had started piling up. Late deliveries, cold food, missed orders. But the reports from upper management didn't match what customers were saying online. So Owen shaved his beard, dyed the salt in his hair dark, threw on a pair of thick-rimmed glasses and joined as a trainee delivery driver. Nobody at this particular store had met him before. He rarely visited individual locations himself, and the last manager had left before he bought it. Plus, the company had grown so much lately that most staff didn't even know what he looked like. It was the perfect cover. It was his 3rd day undercover. The store was short-staffed, he'd learned that quick. The assistant manager had quit 2 weeks ago, and the remaining manager, a guy named Trevor, was barely holding things together. On the schedule, Owen noticed his name was penciled in for delivery runs across 3 different locations. When he asked about it, Trevor just shrugged and said, "You got a car, right? Use the van out back." The van was a rusted-out mess with a broken AC and a strange smell, but Owen kept quiet. He wanted to see the truth. By mid-afternoon, he was already 6 deliveries behind. While waiting for another order to be bagged, Owen stepped outside for air. That's when he noticed the blue delivery van from the other store parked a few spaces down. He squinted. Someone was inside, slumped over the steering wheel. Owen walked over and knocked lightly on the window. The man jolted awake, blinking fast. He looked to be in his early 40s with tired eyes and a faded work shirt. "You good?" Owen asked. Yeah, sorry. "Just closed my eyes for a sec," the man said, rubbing his face. "Didn't mean to doze." "Long day," the man gave a tired chuckle. "Long week, been running since 6, got a shift at the grocery store after this." Owen raised an eyebrow. "You work 2 jobs, gotta," the man said. "Wife's meds aren't cheap, and the hours here, they're all over the place, can't count on more than 20 a week." Owen's stomach twisted. "What's your name?" "Marcus." "I'm Dale, just started," Marcus nodded. "Nice to meet you. Hey, don't let Trevor push you too hard, man." "He'll burn you out if you let him." Owen nodded slowly. "Thanks for the heads up." The door to the restaurant opened and Trevor's voice rang out. "Dale, you done chatting? We got orders stacking." Owen turned. "Coming," he gave Marcus a quick nod before jogging back across the lot. Inside, bags were piling up on the counter. "You were gone for 10 minutes, Trevor snapped. "I was checking on another driver, he looked passed out." Trevor waved a hand. "Marcus, he's always doing that, don't worry about him. He's working 2 jobs. Not my problem," Trevor muttered. "Now grab these, you're headed to the West Side drop." That was across town. Another 30-minute drive. Owen grabbed the bags and headed out, anger simmering low in his chest. The rest of the day was worse. Trevor yelled at a teenage cashier for missing a side of fries. A kitchen staffer told Owen she hadn't had a break all day. When Owen asked why they were short on staff, a cook named Lena muttered, "No one wants to work here anymore, not with how Trevor talks to people." By the time Owen clocked out at 10, his legs ached and his shirt clung to his back. He sat in the van and stared out at the parking lot. Marcus's van was still there. He walked over and found Marcus inside, eating a granola bar. "You haven't left," got another order. Then straight to the grocery store. Owen leaned against the side of the van. "Why don't you ask for more hours here?" Marcus shrugged. "Tried. Trevor said he'd keep me on part-time, said I wasn't fast enough, but I never got a single customer complaint, not once. I don't know, I think he doesn't like me." Owen frowned. "Why?" Marcus hesitated. "I told him once I couldn't work Sundays because of my kid's care schedule. My son's autistic, needs me on weekends." After that, hours dropped. Owen's jaw clenched. "That's not right." Marcus looked down. "It's whatever, I just keep my head down." "You shouldn't have to," Owen said quietly. Marcus gave a tired smile. "Appreciate that, man, but I gotta go." He started his van and rolled out of the lot. Owen stood there, watching the taillights disappear. He grabbed his phone and called the company's HR line. "Hey," he said. "This is Owen Ellison. I need the full personnel files for store number 3, especially for a manager named Trevor." There was a pause. "Yes, sir, right away." Owen hung up and stared at the restaurant. He felt sick. He trusted his district manager to run things right, but he hadn't checked in person in months. That was on him. And now, a man who worked 2 jobs just to care for his son was being pushed aside. That was going to change, starting tomorrow. Owen arrived at the regional office just after 7 the next morning, still in his cover uniform. The sun had barely cleared the skyline, and the building was quiet just the way he wanted it. He bypassed his own office and headed straight to the HR floor, where a man in a blue button-down was already waiting at reception with a folder in hand. "Mr. Ellison," the man said, keeping his voice low. "I compiled what you asked for: personnel files, internal complaints, and shift logs for the past 60 days. Owen took the folder without a word and walked to the empty conference room at the end of the hall. Inside, he shut the door, sat down, and opened to the first page. Trevor's file was thin, too thin. No performance reviews on record, no manager evaluations submitted since last fall. The last district check-in was almost 6 months old, marked with a generic store operating within expected parameters. He flipped to the next tab: employee complaints. There were 3 formal write-ups. None had been escalated. One was from a former cashier who reported being denied breaks during open-to-close shifts. Another from a line cook alleging wage discrepancies when filling in for the night lead. The most recent was from a delivery driver, Marcus. It was dated 4 months ago and described a conversation in which Trevor allegedly told him, "This job's not meant for people with too many home problems." There was no follow-up on record, no interview. The case had been marked resolved lack of evidence. Owen sat back and rubbed his temples. He had delegated too much. He pulled out his phone and called the district manager, Claire. She picked up after 2 rings. "You at the office already?" she asked. "Yeah, I need to talk about store 3. There was a pause. "Something happened. Walk me through how often you visit that location." "I try to hit each store once a month, sometimes more if they're behind on numbers." "When was the last time you did a full day on site at 3? I'd have to check, but I think late winter." "February maybe. Did you ever talk to any of the drivers? Or the kitchen crew?" "I usually check in with Trevor. He keeps things tight, doesn't ask for much." Owen's voice was flat. "He doesn't ask because he doesn't want anyone looking too closely." Claire hesitated. "Did you go in?" "I've been working there, undercover." There was a long silence. "You what?" "I've been driving shifts, taking deliveries, watching." "Jesus, Owen, why didn't you tell me?" "Because if I had, I wouldn't have seen what I did." He didn't wait for her to respond. "I need you to meet me there at noon. Don't tell anyone, and bring a notepad." He hung up and stood. By the time he arrived at the store later that morning, the parking lot was already full. He parked around the corner and walked in through the back entrance, same as the last few days. The kitchen was loud and cramped, bodies moving fast, voices raised over the sound of fryers and clanging pans. He spotted Lena at the grill, flipping patties with a focused rhythm. "Hey," he said, approaching quietly. She glanced over, surprised. "Didn't think you were on today. Just covering a few hours." She nodded and turned back to the grill. He moved toward the prep station where a young woman was chopping lettuce with robotic precision. She looked up briefly, then back down. "Morning," he said. "Hey, you always open." "Most days. I'm the only one with a car who can get here by 6. He watched her for a moment. Her hands moved fast, but her eyes were dull tired in a way that didn't come from just one early shift. "What's your name?" "Isla." "You been here long?" 8 months. "Since I graduated," he nodded. "You like it?" She shrugged. "Pays rent, that's about it." He didn't push further. The door swung open behind him and Trevor strode in, wearing a black polo with the company logo and a Bluetooth headset in one ear. "Dale," he called. "Up front." "We're doing a lunch prep run." Owen followed him through the narrow hall to the front counter, where a clipboard sat with a list of supplies. "We're short on salad boxes and napkins," Trevor said. "Take the van to the central store, pick up 2 pallets." Owen glanced at the list. "That store's across town. You want me back before lunch rush." Trevor looked at him like he'd asked if the sky was blue. "Of course. Take the freeway, skip lights." Owen stared at him. "And if I get stuck in traffic, drive smarter." Owen didn't move. "You ever do a delivery run yourself?" Trevor scoffed. "I've got a store to run." "Then maybe you should see what you're asking people to do." Trevor narrowed his eyes. "What's your problem today?" Before Owen could answer, the door opened again and Claire walked in, heels clicking against the tile. Trevor straightened. "Didn't know you were coming by." Claire didn't shake his hand. "We need to talk." Trevor blinked. Now, she turned to Owen. "Can you give us a minute?" Owen didn't move. "He knows who I am." Trevor's face twitched. "What? I'm not Dale, I'm Owen Ellison. I own this company." Claire stepped aside. "We need to speak privately." Trevor looked between the two of them, his mouth opening, then closing. Owen leaned in slightly. "You've got 5 minutes to explain why your staff is pulling double shifts with no breaks, why complaints are going unanswered, and why a delivery driver with a special needs child is being penalized for asking for Sundays off." Trevor's face flushed. I don't know what you're talking about. I treat everyone fairly. If people can't do the job, stop," Owen snapped. "I've been here, I've seen it, I've heard how you talk to people." Trevor's voice rose. "This isn't fair. You're coming in here pretending to be someone else. How's that ethical? Ethics?" Owen's voice was low and sharp. "You want to talk ethics?" He turned to Claire. "Get him out of the store." Trevor raised his hands. "You're making a mistake. Numbers are up, customer wait times are down, and morale is in the basement," Owen said. "That's not success." Trevor stared at him, then turned and stormed toward the back. Claire followed. Owen stood still as the kitchen fell into a tense quiet. Lena poked her head through the door. "Everything okay?" He looked at her. "No, but it will be." He walked behind the counter and picked up the clipboard Trevor had tossed aside. "Who's on break next?" he asked. Eiler raised her hand slowly. "Take 30, Owen said. "Clock it, full pay." She blinked. "Seriously?" "Seriously," he turned to the kitchen. "We're resetting everything, scheduling, staffing, management. It'll take a few days, but you're going to see the difference." Lena crossed her arms. "Who's in charge now?" "I am," Owen said. "For now. Until I find someone worth trusting." He turned to the prep fridge, opened it, and started checking expiration labels. For the first time since walking into the store, the room felt still. Then, slowly, the work resumed. Owen didn't sit down the rest of the day. He watched every order, checked every bag, spoke with every employee. He listened without interrupting. He took notes. When Marcus arrived for his shift that evening, Owen met him at the door. "Come with me," Owen said. Marcus looked confused but followed. They stepped outside, away from the others. Owen looked him in the eye. "You're not working tonight, you're going home, full pay." Marcus frowned. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," Owen said, "but someone else did, and it's being handled." Marcus was quiet. Owen continued. "You're getting your hours back, stable schedule. No more covering 24 zip codes, and if you ever have an issue again, you call me directly." Marcus blinked. "Who are you?" Owen smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm the guy who should have been paying more attention." He held out his hand. Marcus shook it, cautious. "Go home," Owen said. "Be with your son." He turned and walked back toward the store, already thinking about what came next. The next morning, Owen arrived at store 3 before dawn. The air was still and thick with the scent of last night's rain, the asphalt damp beneath his shoes. He didn't park in his usual spot. This time, he left the car around the corner and walked in through the service entrance again. No disguise, no cover story. He wanted them to see him for who he really was. Inside, the lights were already on in the back. A prep cook named Shauna stood at the sink, peeling carrots with slow, steady strokes. She glanced over her shoulder when he entered but didn't say anything. "Morning," Owen said. She nodded once and kept working. He stepped into the dry storage room and opened his notebook. The layout was a mess. Boxes jammed onto shelves in no order, expiration dates hidden, some items cross-stacked in a way that made them nearly impossible to reach. He flipped through the inventory list from last night, handwritten, uneven. The counts didn't match what he saw on the shelves. Back in the hallway, he found a clipboard nailed to the wall. The maintenance log was blank for April, May, and most of June. A single note was scrawled in the margin, "Leak under sink still waiting." He returned to the front just as the morning shift began trickling in. Isla walked through the door with a thermos in hand, her hair tied back, earbuds dangling from her collar. She noticed him, hesitated, then approached. "You're really the owner?" "Yes." She looked away briefly. "I told my sister about what happened yesterday. She didn't believe it. I don't blame her." There was a pause. "Are you keeping the store open?" she asked. "People are talking." "I am, but not like this." He stepped aside. "Clock in. We'll talk later." She nodded and disappeared into the back. By 7, the place was humming. Orders started rolling in through the app, and the line outside the door stretched halfway to the parking lot. Owen stayed by the front register, observing every interaction. He noticed the way Lena coached the newer staff without making them feel small. He watched as Shauna stepped in to help the cashier during a bottleneck, wiping the counter without being asked. None of it was flashy, just quiet competence. Around 10, Claire arrived carrying a leather folder under her arm. She didn't stop to greet anyone, just walked straight to him. "Can we talk?" "In the office." They stepped into the cramped back room, barely big enough for 2 people. He shut the door behind them. She opened the folder and pulled out a short stack of printed emails. "Legal reviewed the complaints we uncovered. HR's going to reach out to the employees involved discreetly. They'll start interviews this week." He looked over the pages. Anything from payroll, found 2 instances where Marcus's overtime wasn't properly recorded. Both were flagged in the system but never corrected. "We're issuing back pay with interest." "Good." Claire hesitated. "There's something else. We pulled footage from March. There's an exchange between Trevor and one of the cooks, looks like verbal intimidation. It doesn't meet the threshold for criminal charges, but it shows who he is." She nodded. He set the papers down. "We're not just cleaning this up, we're changing how we manage. From the ground up." She folded her arms. "That's going to take more than firing one manager. I know. You'll need buy-in from the other stores. Some of them are stretched thin too. If we start shifting policy here, the others will notice. I want them to." Claire studied him for a moment. "You're not just reacting to this. You're rebuilding." He didn't answer. She nodded quietly and left. By noon, Owen had reviewed 3 weeks of scheduling data and found a pattern. Certain employees, mostly those with medical or family obligations, were consistently scheduled for the least desirable shifts. Others, usually younger or more vocal, were given more flexibility. It wasn't illegal. But it was unmistakably biased. He gathered the staff in the dining area after lunch rush. The chairs squeaked against the tile as they slid into a loose circle, some sitting with arms crossed, others leaning forward, waiting. "I want to be clear about what's happening," he began. "This store isn't shutting down, but how it's been run, that ends now." A few heads turned. "I've seen the schedules. I've read the complaints. I've watched the way you work, and I'm telling you, you deserved better than what you got." Lena spoke first. "So what changes?" He looked at her. "For starters, we're hiring a new general manager, someone from within this store, someone who actually listens." Shauna raised an eyebrow. "From here?" "Yes, I've seen what you're capable of. We'll open the position today, but I want every one of you to consider applying." A young man near the back frowned. "What if the new manager turns out the same?" "They won't," Owen said, "because they'll be accountable to me, directly." Isla spoke next. "What about the drivers?" "There's still not enough of them. We're hiring more, and we're raising the base rate for deliveries. Fuel reimbursements, too." There were a few surprised glances around the room. Owen continued. "Every employee in this store will get a one-on-one check-in over the next 2 weeks, not with HR. With me or Claire, we're not here to interrogate, we're here to listen." Someone muttered something under their breath. Owen caught it. He turned. "You have something to say?" The employee shifted in his seat. "We've heard stuff like this before, from other jobs." "Nothing ever really changes." Owen nodded once. "I get that, I do, but I'm not asking you to believe me today, I'm asking you to hold me to it." There was silence. Then Lena leaned forward. "You said someone from here could run the store. What if we've never managed before? Then we train you." Later that afternoon, Owen stepped outside to take a call. The air had turned muggy again, and clouds were forming over the hills. On the line was the company's operations consultant, a woman named Nia he hadn't spoken to in months. "I need you to audit all 8 locations," he said. "You want a full sweep, top to bottom. Schedules, staffing levels, complaint logs, real customer feedback. No summaries, I want raw data. That'll take time. Start with the ones that share staff with Store 3. I want to see if this was isolated or systemic." "Understood." He ended the call and slid the phone into his pocket. From where he stood, he could see Marcus's van pulling into the lot. The man stepped out, wearing a fresh shirt and a look that was almost, but not quite, relaxed. Owen walked over. Marcus noticed him and gave a cautious nod. "You're early," Owen said. "Didn't want to be late. Heard there's something going on with management." "There is." Marcus looked toward the store. "People seem different." "They are." There was a pause. "If you're serious about what you told me," Marcus said, "then I want to stay." "I meant every word." Marcus took a breath. "Then I'll do my part." They walked in together. Behind the counter, Lena was coaching a new hire on how to balance trays. Shauna had organized the prep table into clean zones. Isla was running the register with a tempo that kept the line moving without rushing anyone. Owen didn't say anything. He just watched. The old systems were breaking down, and in their place, something better was starting to take shape. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be easy. But for the first time in a long while, the store felt like it belonged to the people who worked there. And that was the point. 2 weeks later, Owen stood just inside the doorway of the regional training center, watching a group of store managers trickle into the main conference room. The walls were lined with printouts of labor efficiency charts and customer retention graphs, but those weren't the focus today. He had called this meeting personally, and word had spread fast through the leadership ranks, some curious, others anxious. Colin, one of the longest-serving managers from the North District, was the first to approach him. "You're really making this a requirement now?" His voice was even, but there was a trace of skepticism beneath it. "I am," Owen said. "If you're running a store, you need to understand what it means to work in one. I already did that years ago. Then it shouldn't be hard." Colin didn't reply. He joined the others around the table. Once everyone had settled, Owen stepped forward. No slides, no presentation, just this. He held up a slim folder, the same one that had been passed to HR weeks earlier. "You've all heard about the situation at Store 3. I'm not here to rehash it. I'm here because what happened there didn't start with one manager, it started with the culture we allowed." He let that settle before continuing. "We expanded faster than we were ready for. I stopped showing up in person. I relied on summaries, spreadsheets, and second-hand explanations. That's on me, but from now on, that changes for everybody." He walked to the whiteboard and picked up a marker. "Starting this month, every manager will spend no less than 16 hours per quarter working frontline shifts, in your own store or in another. No exceptions. You'll rotate through kitchen, register, and delivery. You'll log the hours. And I will review them myself." There was a murmur around the table. A woman near the end, Cassandra, raised her hand. "What if it interferes with management duties? Then you reorganize your week. If your store can't run without you behind a desk for 2 days, something's wrong with how it's built." Someone else spoke. "What are we supposed to do with that time? Just work like any other employee?" "Yes, you don't supervise, you don't coach, you stay quiet and listen." The room fell silent. He uncapped another marker and drew a line through the center of the board. Second change. Internal applications for promotions will now include peer feedback from non-management staff. If your team doesn't trust you, you don't move up. I don't care how clean your numbers are. We've seen what happens when we ignore that. He stepped back. Last thing. Starting next quarter, we're launching a pilot program for schedule transparency. Employees will be able to view total shift hours assigned per person across the store. No names, just raw data. If someone's consistently getting buried or favored, it'll be obvious. There were no immediate objections. Just quiet thinking. Owen closed the folder and set it down. I don't expect this to be smooth. Some of you are going to push back. That's fine. But if you're not prepared to work alongside your team, you shouldn't be leading one. He nodded once and left the room without waiting for a response. Outside, Claire was waiting with a tablet in hand. Marcus submitted his application last night, she said, for store lead. The internal committee already shortlisted him. Owen took the tablet and scrolled through the application. It was handwritten, scanned in as a PDF. No embellishments, just a clear explanation of how he'd manage routes better, rotate shifts fairly, and keep deliveries consistent without pushing people past their limits. Has he managed before? No, but he attached a spreadsheet he built himself to track fuel costs and route times. The numbers line up. Set up a panel interview. Lena and Isla should be on it. Claire nodded. You want me to sit in? No, let the staff decide. She tapped something into the tablet and looked up again. Also, there's a new hire coming in this week. Young guy, no experience. Wants to work delivery. I think he's related to one of the kitchen staff. Start him under Marcus. Back at store 3, the mood had shifted. Owen didn't need a report to see it. The dining area filled earlier in the day and customers lingered longer. Feedback forms showed more handwritten responses, some positive, some critical but thoughtful. The tone had changed. People cared again. That afternoon, Marcus arrived for his shift early as usual. He found Owen near the back counter, watching 2 new hires punch in at the scheduling kiosk. You've been quiet lately, Marcus said. I've been listening. Notice the new break policy's actually working. Nobody's missed one in over a week. That's because Lena built the tracker, not me. Marcus leaned against the counter. You ever think about how close this place got to breaking? Every day. I almost walked twice before you came in. What stopped you, my son? He likes when I wear the uniform, thinks I run the place. Owen smiled faintly. Maybe you will soon. Marcus looked at him. You serious? I've seen the interview list. You're on it, and you earned it. Marcus didn't say anything right away. Then, if I take it, I won't do it the same way Trevor did. I'm counting on that. Later, Owen found himself in the back corner office that had once been Trevor's. The desk had been cleared. On top sat a single laminated sheet, a rotating schedule template that showed when each employee last worked a closing shift, a weekend shift, and a double. It wasn't complex, but it was transparent. He picked it up and looked at the initials in the corner. Isla's. He set it back down and walked to the front. There was no ceremony, no banner, just a store running better than it had in months. He stepped outside and watched as a delivery van pulled up to the curb. The driver hopped out, checked the order, and gave a short wave through the window to someone inside. Owen turned and looked up at the sign above the entrance. Same name, same logo, but everything underneath had changed.